Hey guys, tonight we're going to explore one of the most powerful and visceral symbols in human history: blood. For thousands of years, in cultures all across the world, it was believed that blood was not just a physical substance, but the very essence of life, a vessel for the soul, and a source of immense magical power. We're going to journey back into the ancient world to learn how this belief was put into practice, to witness the strange, solemn, and sometimes terrifying rituals that used blood to create powerful, unbreakable seals on oaths, on treaties, and on sacred bonds between men. Now for our little reality check. Today, a contract is made binding by a signature, a scrawl of ink at the bottom of a page. In the ancient world, for the most important promises, ink and parchment were not enough. You needed something more. You needed a seal that was literally alive. Modern contracts are sealed with a signature. Ancient contracts were sometimes sealed with blood, a sword, and a prayer that the gods strike you down if you break it. It's a system that really encourages you to read the terms and conditions carefully. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support is the sacred oath that keeps this channel going. And as always, I love seeing where in the world you're all joining me from. So please post your city and your local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your world is one of order, law, and the expanding power of Rome. It is the 1st century BCE, and you are a young, educated Greek in the service of a Roman diplomat named Gaius Octavius. Your skill is with words. You are fluent in both the precise, commanding Latin of your masters, and the nuanced, philosophical Greek of your own people. Your job is to be the memory of the mission. You draft the treaties. You record the negotiations. You are the keeper of the official word. Your current assignment has brought you to the rugged, mountainous frontier of Anatolia. You are in a Roman military camp, a place of disciplined order. The smell of leather and wood smoke thick in the air. Your master, Gaius, is here for a single crucial purpose: to finalize a military alliance between the Republic and a local Hellenistic king whose small but strategic kingdom is a buffer against the powerful. Hostile forces further east. The negotiations have been long and arduous. For weeks, you have sat in the command tent, your stylus flying across your wax tablet, recording the arguments over troop levies, tribute payments, and border demarcations. A treaty has finally been agreed upon, and you have spent the last 2 days meticulously writing out the final version on a fine sheet of papyrus. The words are perfect. The terms are clear. But Gaius tells you that words alone are not enough. On the frontier, promises are as brittle as old parchment. He says to you one evening, as you review the document, men who live by the sword have little respect for the ink of a scribe. This alliance must be sealed not just in law, but in the hearts of the commanders. It requires a stronger seal. The day for the signing arrives. The ceremony is held in a large tent, set up in the no-man's land between the Roman camp and the king's encampment. The atmosphere is one of solemn, formal tension. In the center of the tent stands a simple stone altar. The 2 leaders enter: the Roman general, a tough, scarred veteran named Cassius, and the Hellenistic king, a proud man in a gleaming bronze cuirass. They are flanked by their senior officers. You are there, holding the papyrus scroll of the treaty. The ceremony begins. At Gaius's direction, you step forward and read the terms of the treaty aloud, first in Latin, then in Greek, your voice clear and steady in the silent tent. When you are finished, the 2 commanders, Cassius and the king, step before the altar. Each man places his left hand on the hilt of his sword and raises his right hand to the heavens. They swear their oaths. The Roman general swears by Jupiter best and greatest, and by the war god Mars. The king swears by Zeus, the protector of oaths, and by Ares, They each call upon their gods to witness their promise and to strike them down should they ever break faith. This, is already a powerful bond to an ancient mind. An oath is not just a promise. It is a conditional self-curse. But today, it will go further. A priest steps forward. He carries a small, razor-sharp bronze knife and a magnificent silver cup filled with dark, red wine. He approaches the Roman general first. He makes a small, shallow, and expertly clean cut on the general's forearm. A few drops of dark, rich blood well up and fall into the wine. The priest then turns to the king and repeats the action, and the king's blood mingles with the Romans in the cup. The priest takes a ceremonial dagger and stirs the mixture, his voice a low, chanting murmur. The wine, now infused with the life force of the two leaders, has become something more than wine. It has become a vessel for their oath, a physical manifestation of their bonded fate. The cup is then presented to the Roman general. He takes it, looks his new ally in the eye, and drinks deeply. He then hands the cup to the king, who does the same. They have now symbolically and in their minds, literally, taken the life, the spirit, and the oath of the other man into their own bodies. They are no longer just allies. They are now blood brothers, their fates magically intertwined. To betray the other would now be a form of self-poisoning. As a final act, the priest dips the tip of his dagger into the blood wine and sprinkles a few drops onto the papyrus treaty you are holding, staining the clean document with small, dark red spots. Then, and only then, do the two leaders apply their wax seals. You watch, your scribe's mind reeling at the power of this ritual, as a diplomat's scribe. You've just discovered that the final stage of proofreading sometimes involves two generals, a bottle of wine, and a very sharp knife. It adds a certain level of excitement to the clerical profession. You come to understand the disturbing beliefs that underpin this act. The blood is not just a symbol. To the Romans, it is the vessel of the anima, the life force itself. To mix it is to create an unbreakable bond. To drink it is to consume a contract. Future historians will debate whether these accounts of blood oaths were literal or merely literary tropes to add drama. But for you, in this tent, there is no debate. It is a real, solemn, and deeply powerful act of magic. That evening, a great feast is held to celebrate the new alliance. The Roman and Greek officers, who just weeks ago were potential enemies, now drink and laugh together, their bonds sealed in the most profound way they know. You are speaking with your master. Gaius, marveling at the effectiveness of the ritual. It was a potent ceremony, you say. Yes, Gaius replies, a thoughtful look in his eyes. A civilized oath for civilized men. A few drops of blood. A cup of wine. It is clean. It is symbolic. It is enough for us. He takes a sip of his own wine. But do not be mistaken. Boy, not all such rituals are so neat. He tells you that your diplomatic mission is being expanded. Rome needs to secure its northern frontiers, to make alliances with the wild, horse-riding tribes of the great steppes the Scythians. You will be accompanying an envoy to their lands next season, he says. Do they also seal their oaths with blood, you ask? Gaius gives you a grim smile. Oh yes, he says. They seal everything with blood, but their methods are different. They do not use a silver cup and a few polite drops of wine. The barbarians, they have a much more thorough understanding of what it means to make a blood bond. You will see. You look out from the command tent at the wild, dark hills to the north. Your journey into the world of powerful, ancient seals, you realize, has only just begun, and it is about to take you out of the world of law and reason, and into a much older, wilder, and bloodier one. Your next diplomatic mission takes you far beyond the familiar world of Roman legions and Hellenistic cities. You journey north, past the Danube frontier, and into the vast, unending grasslands of the Scythian steppes. The world transforms from one of mountains, valleys, and city walls into a single, immense sea of grass under an even more immense sky. The air is different here, smelling of wild herbs, horse, and the smoke of dung fires. You are in the land of the nomads, a people as wild and untamed as the landscape they inhabit. You are part of a small Roman envoy, protected by a contingent of auxiliary cavalry, sent to negotiate an alliance with a powerful Scythian chieftain. Your master, Gaius, seeks a treaty to secure Rome's northern border and hire Scythian horse archers for the legions. Your first encounter with the Scythians is a startling sight. They are not a disorganized rabble. They are a nation on horseback. They live in great wagons with felt-covered yurts, and their wealth is not in land or buildings, but in vast herds of horses and cattle. The people themselves are fierce and striking. The men are long-haired, their bodies often covered in intricate, swirling tattoos of stylized animals. They wear leather trousers and pointed hats, a practical and alien form of dress to your Romanized Greek eyes. They are masters of the composite bow, able to shoot with deadly accuracy from the back of a galloping horse. The negotiations are unlike the tense, legalistic proceedings you're used to. They take place not in a tent, but in the open air, around a great, crackling campfire. The Scythian chieftain, a man with a magnificent, flowing mustache and eyes as sharp as a hawk's, does not haggle over the fine print of a treaty. He listens to Gaius's proposals, and the discussions are punctuated by great feasts of roasted horse meat and the drinking of kumis. A sour, potent brew of fermented mare's milk that tastes nothing like the wine you're used to. The Scythians are a nomadic people who live in wagons and are really good at shooting arrows from horseback. Their hospitality consists of offering you a drink of fermented mare's milk, which tastes exactly as delicious as it sounds. After several days, an agreement is reached, but when you produce the fine papyrus scroll on which you have written the treaty, the chieftain laughs, a deep, booming sound. A Roman scratches words on a dry leaf and calls it a bond. He says through an interpreter, "Words can be blown away by the wind. An oath between warriors, an oath between brothers, must be sealed with a substance that cannot lie. It must be sealed with blood." He declares that to finalize this alliance, his chief warriors and your Roman delegation must become blood brothers. Gaius, knowing that to refuse would be a profound insult, agrees without hesitation. The chieftain's gaze then falls upon you. "And the keeper of the words," he says, pointing a finger at you. "He will join too. The words on his scroll are weak. The words of our oath will be strong. He must drink them. A cold knot of fear forms in your stomach. But you see the sharp, commanding look in your master's eye. You have no choice. The ritual is performed at sunset. A sacred space is cleared, and a grate. Wide earthenware bowl is placed in the center. It is filled with wine. The Scythian chieftain and his 5 most powerful warriors step forward. On the Roman side, Gaius and his senior centurion step up. And then, with a nudge from Gaius, you reluctantly join them, taking your place in the circle of hard, dangerous men. The chieftain takes a small, sharp bronze knife from his belt. He makes a shallow cut on the back of his own hand, and with a grim satisfaction, squeezes several drops of his dark blood into the wine. He then passes the knife to his warriors, and each one repeats the act. Adding their own life force to the bowl, the knife is then passed to Gaius. Your master, without flinching, makes a similar cut on his own arm. Then the centurion does the same. Finally, the knife is offered to you. Your hand trembles as you take it. You are a scribe, not a warrior. The sight of your own blood unnerves you, but you know that the eyes of every man are upon you. You make a small, quick cut on your thumb, squeezing a few drops of your own blood into the communal bowl. The chieftain says that to seal the deal. You all have to become blood brothers. This involves a large bowl, a lot of wine, and everyone bleeding into it. It's a team-building exercise, but with a much higher risk of infection when the blood of all the participants has been mingled with the wine. The next stage begins. The Scythian warriors dip the tips of their weapons into the mixture the point of an arrow, the blade of a short, iron aconake sword, the head of a battle axe. Gaius dips the tip of his own Roman gladius. The weapons themselves are now bound by the oath. The chieftain then raises his hands and speaks the oath in his own guttural, powerful tongue. The interpreter translates for you. The chieftain swears by his ancestral gods. By the spirits of the sky and the earth, he pledges to treat the Romans as his own brothers, to fight for them, to protect them. And he invokes a terrible curse upon any man who breaks this bond. May his blood turn to water in his veins. He roars. May his line be extinguished. May his bones be scattered on the step for the dogs to gnaw. The oath is complete. The great bowl is lifted. The chieftain is the first to drink, taking a long, deep swallow. Then it is passed to his warriors. Then it comes to Gaius, who drinks without hesitation. Then the centurion, and then the bowl is before you. It is a heavy, rustic thing. The wine inside is now a dark, almost black, murky liquid. You can smell the sharp, metallic tang of the blood. You look at the faces of the Scythian warriors watching you, their eyes intense. To refuse is unthinkable. You take the bowl in both hands, raise it to your lips, and drink. The taste is overwhelming. The sourness of the wine, the saltiness and iron tang of the warm. Fresh blood. It is a horrifying primal communion. You are literally drinking the life force of these wild, strange men. You are taking their spirit, their promise, and their curse into your own body. You take a long drink from the communal bowl of blood wine. It tastes of iron, cheap wine, and a series of very binding and probably regrettable life choices. When every man in the circle is drunk from the bowl, the chieftain lets out a great roar of satisfaction. The ritual is complete. You are now blood brothers. The atmosphere changes instantly. The formal suspicion is gone, replaced by a boisterous, overwhelming, and slightly terrifying friendship. The Scythians now clap you on the back with a force that almost knocks you over. They hand you horns filled with more of the sour mare's milk, insisting you drink with your new brothers you have witnessed and participated in. Your second blood seal. And you understand now the profound difference. The Roman rite you saw was a cool, legalistic ceremony, a symbolic gesture to add weight to a written contract. This Scythian ritual was something else entirely. It was a raw, visceral, and total mingling of souls. There is no document. The treaty is now written in your own veins. You realize that for these men. This bond is now more real than any family tie. To betray them would be a physical impossibility, a magical self-destruction. You have been sealed not with wax, but with the very essence of life itself. As you sit by the great fire, a horn of kumis forced into your hand, watching your new, wild brothers laugh and boast, you feel a thrill of fear and wonder. Your journey into the power of blood has taken a deep and dangerous turn. Your time among the Scythians comes to an end. The alliance is forged, sealed in the strange, coppery taste of the blood wine you shared. Your Roman envoy, its mission successful, begins the long journey south, back towards the more familiar territories of the Republic. You leave the great, endless sea of grass behind, carrying with you the memory of the wild horsemen and a bond of brotherhood that feels both powerful and deeply unsettling. Your journey takes you through the rugged lands of Anatolia, a place of ancient cities and even more ancient traditions. You arrive in a city that has stood for 1,000 years. Its massive stone walls a testament to the many kings and empires that have risen and fallen around it. The city is in the midst of a great new construction project, the building of a new, grand gateway to replace an old one that has crumbled with age. You and your master, Gaius, find lodging at an inn, and you spend your days observing the work. As a man who appreciates order and engineering, you are fascinated by the slow, methodical process of the stonemasons and laborers. One evening, you are sharing a cup of wine with the master mason of the project, a gnarled old man named Phanes, whose hands are as rough and worn as the stones he shapes. You ask him about the city's ancient walls, marveling at their strength and endurance. They have stood for 1,000 years. You say, "What is their secret?" Phanes takes a long drink of his wine and looks at you with his weary, knowing eyes. They have a strong foundation. Roman, he says. His voice a low gravel. A very strong foundation. He leans closer, a conspiratorial glint in his eye. Do you know the story of our city's first wall? He tells you a local legend. He says that when the first king built the wall, every section he constructed would crumble and fall by the next morning. The spirits of the earth, he explains, were angry at the intrusion. They would not allow the stone to stand. The king's priest declared that a great offering was needed to appease the earth spirits, to give the wall a life and a spirit of its own so it could stand. They needed a blood seal. Phanes whispers. He tells you that the priest decreed that the first living thing to pass the construction site at dawn the next day must be sacrificed and its body walled up within the foundation. The king, hoping a dog or a goat would pass, agreed. But the first person to arrive was the king's own young daughter, bringing him his morning meal. The king, bound by his sacred oath to the priests, was forced to sacrifice his own child, her life force becoming the eternal, sorrowful guardian of the wall. Sorrowful. It's a horrifying story. Is this true, you ask? Your voice hushed. Phanes shrugs. It is a story from the time of the ancestors, he says. But every stone in that old wall is held together by the mortar of that tale. The secret to building a sturdy bridge or a great wall, in the old days, he says, was to give it a ghost of its own. A guardian, sealed in the stone, to protect it forever. You're learning about foundation sacrifice. It's a horrifying construction technique, but it probably did wonders for preventing trolls from moving in underneath. Thankfully, he continues, a grim smile on his face. We have more practical methods now. The gods are willing to accept a substitute. The next day, he invites you to witness the laying of the cornerstone for the new city gate. It is a great public ceremony. The entire town is gathered. A magnificent, unblemished white bull is led to the foundation trench by a group of priests. The animal is ritually garlanded with flowers. The priest chants a long prayer, dedicating the new gate to the gods of the city and asking the spirits of the earth to accept this offering in place of a human one. Then, with a single, swift blow from a ceremonial axe, the bull is sacrificed. Its blood, dark and steaming, is collected in a great earthenware bowl. You watch, transfixed, as the high priest takes the bowl and walks along the foundation trench, sprinkling the blood onto the earth and the stones. The masons then bring forth the great, carved cornerstone. They mix a batch of fresh mortar, and into this mortar, they pour the remainder of the bull's blood, their trowels turning the gray mixture a dark, rusty red. This blood mortar is then slathered onto the foundation, and the great cornerstone is lowered into place. The act is complete. The new gate has been sealed with blood. Its foundation has been given a life force. Its spirit pacified with a sacrifice. The crowd cheers. The city is now protected. You stand there, your mind reeling. You have witnessed a new and deeply disturbing kind of blood seal. The oaths you saw before, both Roman and Scythian, were about creating a bond between living men. This was something else. This was a bond between men and their creation. a seal made with the earth itself. The life of one thing had been taken to ensure the permanence of another. Your understanding of the power of blood deepens. You realize the underlying logic is the same across these different cultures. Blood is the vehicle of the anima, the life force. To make something magically binding and permanent, whether it is an oath, a brotherhood, or a building, you must infuse it with this essence of life itself. The seal is the life. That evening, you discuss what you have seen with your master. Gaius? He listens, his Roman pragmatism warring with the clear evidence of these deep-rooted beliefs. It is a primitive and wasteful practice, he says, but there is a new thoughtfulness in his eyes. And yet, our own great city was founded on a legend of blood. Was it not Romulus killed his own brother Remus at the foundation of his new wall? Perhaps these old stories are the shadows of a darker time. Future historians will debate the origins of these myths. Are they the folk memories of real, archaic sacrifices, or are they merely allegories for the great sacrifice of wealth and labor required to build a city, watching the masons lay the next course of stones on their blood-soaked foundation? You do not believe it is an allegory. You believe it is a memory. You leave the city a few days later, the new gate slowly rising behind you. As you travel, you find you can no longer look at the great works of the ancient world in the same way. You see an old stone bridge, and you wonder whose ghost is sealed within its arches. You see the massive walls of a fortress, and you wonder what terrible price was paid to make them so strong. The world has become a grate, open-air tomb, filled with the quiet, sleeping guardians bound in blood and stone. Your journey continues, taking you now to the colder, misty air lands of the far north. You have learned how blood can bind men to men, and men to their works. Now, you hear stories of the Norsemen, a people who use blood to seal the most important pact of all, the one between mankind and their fears. Demanding gods? Your travels as a diplomat scribe now take you to a completely different world. You journey away from the warm, sun-drenched lands of the Mediterranean, traveling for months by sea and by land, heading into the cold, misty, and foreboding forests of the north. The world becomes a place of dark, towering pine trees, of swift, cold rivers, and of a damp chill that seems to settle deep in your bones. You have come to the lands of the Norsemen. Your master, Gaius, has sent you as part of a small envoy to establish trade relations with a powerful local chieftain. The people you find here are unlike any you have ever met. They are a race of giants, it seems. Tall and broad-shouldered, with hair the color of straw and eyes as pale and gray as a winter sky. They are not city builders. They live in grate, long halls of timber, their roofs covered in turf, their doorways carved with the images of snarling dragons and serpents. They are a people of the axe and the longship, their society built around the loyalty of a warrior to his chieftain. Your new diplomatic partners are the Norsemen. They are very large, very loud, and believe the solution to most problems is to hit it with an axe. Diplomacy here requires a different approach. You are brought before the chieftain, a man named Bjorn, in his great mead hall. It is a vast, smoky room, with a long fire pit running down the center. The air is thick with the smell of roasting meat, wood smoke, and unwashed warriors. Bjorn, a man with a magnificent, braided beard and arms as thick as small trees, agrees to a pact of trade, but, like the Scythian chieftain before him, he scoffs at your papyrus scrolls and wax seals. A man's word is his bond, he says, his voice a great boom that echoes in the hall. And the bond between a people and their gods must be renewed with a gift. You have come at a good time. Tonight is the midwinter blot. You will witness how we seal our pact with the All-Father that evening. You are led not to a stone temple, but to a sacred grove, a hergr deep in the dark forest. It is a circle of ancient, moss-covered standing stones, open to the sky. In the center is a large, flat-topped boulder that serves as an altar. Stained dark from the sacrifices of generations, a great bonfire roars, casting dancing, monstrous shadows. The chieftain, Bjorn, who is also the clan's priest, or Godi, begins the ceremony. He explains its purpose. It is a gift for a gift. The gods gave us this world, he chants. They gave us the strength of our arms and the courage in our hearts. In return, we must give them a gift of the same. We must give them the strength of a great beast, its life force, its blood, to nourish them and keep them strong, so they may aid us in the battles to come. A magnificent white horse, the clan's finest, is led into the circle. It is ritually dedicated to Odin, the Allfather, the god of wisdom, war, and kings. The ritual of sacrifice is swift and practical. The animal's throat is cut, and its blood is carefully collected in a great bronze bowl. A hlaut boli now begins the central rite, the sprinkling of the blood. The chieftain takes a bundle of evergreen twigs, a hlautine, and dips it into the warm, steaming blood. He first approaches the stone altar and the carved wooden idols of the gods that rest upon it agrim. One-eyed Odin, a powerful. Bearded Thor with his hammer, a fertile. Antlered Freyr. He splashes the blood upon them, feeding and strengthening their divine images. Then he turns to his people. He walks through the assembled clan, and with a sweeping gesture, he flicks the bloody twig, casting a fine spray of the sacrificial blood over the warriors. The women, the children. It is a very immersive spiritual experience. And you'll definitely need a change of clothes afterward. You, as an honored guest and a party to their new treaty, are not exempt. The chieftain stands before you, his eyes glinting in the firelight. He dips the twig again and flicks it towards you. You feel the warm, sticky droplets spatter across your face and your fine Roman tunic. It is a shocking, visceral sensation. You have been marked. You have been sealed into their pact with their gods. This, you realize, is a third kind of blood seal. It is not a legal bond between two men. Like the Roman generals, it is not a primal mingling of souls to create a brotherhood. Like with the Scythians, this is a communal seal, a pact between an entire people and their gods. The blood is a conduit, its life force flowing from the sacrificed animal to the gods, and then back to the people themselves, marking them all as part of one sacred, interconnected family, strengthened by a shared gift to the divine. When the sprinkling is complete, the ceremony is not over. The carcass of the sacrificed horse is butchered and roasted over the great bonfire. The meat is then shared by the entire clan in a great feast. It is a sacred communion, a meal shared with the gods themselves. It is also, you note with your Roman practicality, a very efficient way to ensure good meat does not go to waste. You sit in the mead hall late into the night, eating the rich horse meat and drinking horns of sweet, potent mead. You listen as a skald, a court poet, chants the great epics of their people. Tales of heroes fighting ice giants and fire-breathing dragons. As he tells these stories, you hear of another, different kind of magical bond, a concept from the Celtic peoples who live on the islands to the west. He speaks of great heroes who are bound by a geese, a sacred, personal taboo or prohibition. It is a strange and powerful kind of seal, a magical command laid upon a person. And its power, you learn, comes not from the blood that is shed in a ritual, but in the terrible, bloody consequences that will befall the hero if the oath is ever broken. Your journey is not over. You have seen how blood binds men to their creations, and men to their gods. Now you must learn of this other seal, this bond of words whose enforcement is written in blood, yet to be spilled. Your quest, you realize, must now take you west, across the sea, to the misty, green islands of the Celts. Your journey turns westward, across the gray, churning expanse of the North Sea. It is a perilous voyage on a small, hardy trading ship, a vessel that seems insignificant against the immense power of the ocean. You leave behind the world of the Norsemen and their fiery, blood-sprinkled pacts with the gods, and head towards the misty, green islands of the Celts. The air grows damp, thick with salt spray and the smell of rain. It feels like you are sailing into a land of myth. You arrive in a harbor on the coast of Ireland. The world here is different yet again. This is not a land of great cities or nomadic hordes. It is a patchwork of small, warring kingdoms, a society dominated by a fierce warrior aristocracy and by the powerful. Enigmatic priests known as druids. The centers of power are not palaces, but great. Earthen-walled hill forts, or raths. Their wooden halls looking out over a landscape of impossibly green fields and dark. Ancient forests. Your diplomatic mission, on behalf of your Roman masters, is to negotiate a trade agreement for tinnin, a metal prized by the Republic, which is brought here from the mines in the far west. You are brought to the hall of a local king, a man named Finian, whose hospitality is as grand as his temper is famously short. In the king's hall, you befriend a man who is neither a warrior nor a priest, but something in between. He is a Fili, a high-ranking poet, historian, and keeper of the tribe's sacred laws and genealogies. His name is Tadg, and he is fascinated by your scrolls and your stories of the wider world. In return for your tales of Rome and the East, he agrees to teach you about the strange and powerful bonds that govern the lives of his people. You have seen men seal their oaths with blood. Tadg says one evening, as the two of you sit by the great hearth fire in the king's hall, that is a powerful magic, but it is the magic of a moment. We have another kind of seal here, a deeper one. It is not a seal placed upon a contract, but a seal placed upon a man's soul. We call it a geis. He explains the concept to you. A geis, the plural, is gesa, is a sacred taboo, a magical prohibition or an unavoidable obligation laid upon a person. Most often a great hero or a king. It is not a simple curse meant to cause harm. A geis is a thread woven directly into the fabric of a person's fate. Sometimes, adhering to your gesa can be a source of your power, but they always limit your choices, forcing you down a narrow, predestined path. A geis is a knot in a man's destiny, Tadg explains, his eyes focused on the dancing flames. And a man's doom comes when two of his gesa are pulled into a knot so tight that it cannot be untangled. To illustrate, he tells you a famous story, the tale of the great hero, Cu Chulainn. Cu Chulainn, he says, had a gaze upon him that he must never eat the meat of a dog, for the dog was his namesake and his spirit animal. But he had another gaze as well, that he must never refuse a meal offered to him out of hospitality, especially by a woman. Do you see the trap? He describes how, on the way to his final battle, Cu Chulainn was met on the road by 3 old crones who were roasting a dog over a fire. They offered him a piece of the meat. To refuse would be to break his geis of hospitality, an act that would strip him of his honor. To accept would be to break his personal sacred geis, an act that would strip him of his spiritual power. He was caught in an impossible paradox of fate. He chose to break his taboo rather than his honor, and so he went into his final battle weakened. His doom assured, the Celtic gods, it seems, have a very dark sense of humor. You listen, fascinated and horrified. This is a new kind of seal, one far more subtle and terrible than any you have yet encountered. The Scythian blood oath was a bond of will. The foundation sacrifice was a bond with the earth. The Norse blot was a bond with the gods. But this Celtic geis, this is a bond with your own. Personal doom. The seal is not made with blood that has been shed. It is sealed by the promise of the blood that will inevitably be shed if the bond is broken. You witness a small, Less tragic example of this in the king's own hall. One of the king's champions, a great boastful warrior named Don, is, as you learn, under a geese to never refuse a direct challenge to his strength or bravery. A rival warrior, a man Don had insulted, knows this during a feast. The rival stands and publicly challenges Don to a foolish and dangerous feat to lift a massive uncut boulder that lies in the courtyard. It is a pointless and dangerous task, but the challenge has been made publicly. To refuse would be to break his eyes and lose his honor, his very identity as a champion. Don, his face a mask of anger, has no choice but to accept. He goes out into the courtyard and, with a great roaring effort, manages to lift the stone. But the strain is too great, and you hear a sickening pop as a muscle in his back gives way. He drops the stone, his face pale with agony. He has not refused the challenge, but he has been broken by it. His rival has defeated him without ever lifting a sword. Using the hero's own magical bond as a weapon against him, future scholars will debate the function of the geese. Is it a literary device to create tragic heroes? A system of religious taboos, or a way of codifying a warrior's honor? You see in the sad case of Don that it is all three at once. You spend many weeks in the court of King Finian, and your conversations with the poet Tadg fill your scrolls with these strange tales of fate, honor, and taboo. You have learned that a seal need not be a physical thing at all. It can be a simple set of words, a prohibition that, once spoken, is as binding and as deadly as any knife. Your diplomatic mission is finally successful. The treaty for the tin trade is agreed upon, but it is not sealed with blood. It is sealed with a great exchange of hostages, a more practical, if less magical, guarantee of good faith. Your long journey is now drawing to a close. You have traveled from the heart of the Roman world to the wild steppes, from the ancient cities of the east to the misty halls of the north, and now to the green, enchanted islands of the west. You have seen blood used to bind brothers, to raise walls, and to feast the gods. And you have seen how words alone can seal a man's fate as surely as any blood oath. It is time to go home. You bid farewell to the poet Tadag and take passage on a ship heading south, back towards the Mediterranean, back towards Rome. As you watch the green shores of Ireland fade into the mist, you wonder how you will see your own culture's rituals now. After all that you have witnessed, you have seen the raw, primal bargains of the so-called barbarians, and you feel they have taught you more about the nature of power and belief than all the scrolls in your master's library. The ship carries you back across the Great Sea, from the misty green shores of the Celtic Isles to the sun-warmed coast of Italy. After years of travel in the wild, strange, and often grim lands of the barbarians, the return to the familiar world of the Roman Republic is a comforting, if jarring, experience. The food is better, the beds are softer, and the religious rituals involve significantly less drinking out of a communal blood bowl. You arrive in Rome, a city that feels both like home and like a foreign land. You have been gone for so long. You walk the crowded streets, and with your new, experienced eyes, you see a living museum of the very things you have been studying. You see the Greek influences in the architecture, the Egyptian obelisks standing in the public squares, the strange gods of the East being worshipped in small, private cults. Your journey has taught you that Rome is not just a city, it is a sponge, absorbing the cultures and beliefs of every land it touches. You report to your master, the diplomat Gaius. He is older now, a senior senator. His hair turned to noble silver. He is overjoyed to see you. His trusted scribe and protege returned safely. You spend many days in his study, unrolling your precious scrolls and recounting your findings. You tell him of the Scythians' terrible brotherhood, of the grim legends of foundation sacrifices, of the Norsemen's bloody feast with their gods, and of the fateful, verbal knots of the Celtic geese. He listens, fascinated, telling you that your great work will be a priceless addition to the libraries of Rome. One day, he informs you that a great event is to take place. A famous general, a man you served under briefly in your youth, is returning from a victorious campaign against the rebellious tribes in Hispania. The Senate, in its wisdom, has granted him the highest honor a Roman can receive at triumph, and to commemorate his victory, a new, magnificent triumphal arch has been constructed for him at the edge of the Forum Romanum. The dedication ceremony is tomorrow. Gaius tells you, "You must attend with me. You have spent years studying the raw, primal blood rituals of the outer territories. It is time for you to witness the power and order of a Roman blood seal once again. You will see it with new eyes." And so, the next morning, you find yourself standing in the heart of Rome, before the new triumphal arch. It is a masterpiece of gleaming white marble, its surfaces covered in freshly carved reliefs depicting the general's victories. Roman legionaries storming a hill fort, long lines of captive barbarians, the captured treasure being presented to the Senate. It's the ancient Roman equivalent of giving someone a very, very large trophy that you can also drive a chariot through. The ceremony is a grand affair of state. The priests of the College of Pontiffs are in attendance, their heads veiled, their presence lending the occasion a grave legal and spiritual authority. Senators in their white, purple-striped togas stand on the viewing platforms. Gaius explains the purpose of the ritual to you. An arch is a gateway, a janus, he says. Using the old word, it is a liminal space, and the triumph is a perilous moment. A general, at the height of his glory, is dangerously close to becoming a god, and this invites the profound envy of the gods themselves. Therefore, this arch, through which he will pass to receive his glory, must be purified. It must be cleansed of all malevolent spirits and sealed against all ill will. It must be made sacred. The ceremony begins with the lustratio, a ritual of purification. A procession of priests walks around the entire arch 3 times. One priest sprinkles holy water from a laurel branch. Another swings a censer of smoking, purifying sulfur. They chant ancient prayers to Janus, the god of gateways, and to Mars, the god of victory. Then comes the sacrifice. This is not the wild, emotional affair of the Norse blood. This is a solemn, orderly, and almost clinical procedure. 2 magnificent white bulls, their horns gilded and adorned with red ribbons, are led to a temporary altar before the arch. The pontifex, the high priest, recites the formal prayer, dedicating the animals to Jupiter, in thanks for the victory. The bulls are then dispatched with a swift, practiced efficiency. The blood is carefully collected in a sacred bronze bowl. The pontifex then takes a fresh laurel branch, dips it into the bowl of blood, and approaches the arch. He does not spray the crowd. He does not mark the people. He walks to the base of the 2 great pylons that support the arch, and he formally sprinkles the blood upon the white marble. A few dark red drops spatter against the stone. It is a small, precise, and controlled act. You watch, and with your new, comparative knowledge, you understand what you are seeing. This is another kind of blood seal, with another purpose entirely. The Scythian blood created a bond of shared life between men. The Norse blood was a gift of strength to the gods. The blood in the foundation stone was a magical mortar to give a building a spirit. This Roman blood is a cleanser, a spiritual detergent. Its life force is being used to purify the stone, to wash away any lingering spiritual residue, and to dedicate, or seal, the monument to its sacred purpose. The Roman blood ritual is very orderly and bureaucratic. They have priests in special hats, formal prayers, and you get the feeling there's probably a lot of paperwork to file afterward. Future historians will debate the Roman understanding of sacrifice. Was it a gift, a communion? You see it now as primarily a legal transaction. The Romans, in their pragmatic way, are serving a formal notice to the spirit world. This monument has been consecrated through the application of the ultimate sacred substance, the blood of a pure sacrifice. It is now claimed for the gods of Rome, and it is off limits to any lesser. Malevolent powers, the dedication is complete. The arch now stands, pure and sacred, ready for the general's triumphal procession on the morrow, as you walk away with Gaius through the forum. You are quiet, your mind processing what you have seen. You have come full circle. Your journey began by witnessing a simple blood oath in a military tent on the frontier. It ends here, witnessing a great public blood rite in the very heart of the civilized world. You have learned that blood is a universal ink, but every culture writes a different kind of contract with it. You look at the great, ancient temples that surround you, the Temple of Saturn, the Temple of Vesta. Their stones are old, their foundations deep, and you wonder about the other, darker kinds of seals, the ones not performed in the public eye. You think of the curse tablets you learned of in Egypt, and you know that Romans practiced such things as well. You wonder about the spells of sorcerers, the pacts made with forbidden spirits in dark cellars at midnight. You have seen how blood is used to seal the great works of the state. Now, you find yourself wondering how it is used in the secret, shadowy work of personal magic. You are back in Rome, the magnificent and brutal heart of the world, the dedication of the triumphal arch, with its solemn and orderly blood rite, has settled in your mind. A clear example of how your people use the power of life to purify and claim a space for glory. You have seen how blood can seal a treaty between leaders. But your master, Gaius, had hinted at darker, more desperate Roman rituals, and your quest for knowledge is not yet complete. One evening, in his quiet, lamplit study filled with scrolls from every corner of the known world, you ask him, "Master," you say, "the blood at the arch was to seal a victory already won, but what of a battle that is being lost? What seal does a Roman make when he is faced with certain defeat?" Gaius looks up from the scroll he is reading. The cheerful, worldly demeanor of the diplomat falls away, replaced by a deep and solemn gravity. He is silent for a long moment, as if weighing whether you are ready for this knowledge. "There is a ritual," he says finally, his voice low. "A seal of last resort. It is the most terrible and most sacred oath a Roman can take. It is a pact made not with the gods above, but with the gods below. It is called the devotio. He tells you that this is not a common magic. It is a rite reserved for the most desperate moments in the life of the Republic. A ritual performed by a consul or a general on the battlefield when his legions are broken and on the verge of annihilation. It is a vow of self-sacrifice." Gaius explains, a general, seeing that all is lost, can choose to offer himself and the army of the enemy to the gods of the underworld, to Tellus Mater, Mother Earth, and to the Demanes, the collective spirits of the dead. He offers his own life as the price for victory. You listen, spellbound, as he describes the grim procedure, which he knows from the historical scrolls of the great annalist. The general, in full armor, must call upon a pontiff to dictate the precise, ancient formula, for to miss a single word would be to render the vow invalid. He then stands upon a spear laid on the ground, a symbolic connection to the earth and to the god Mars, and recites the terrible prayer. Gaius's voice is a low whisper as he recites a part of the formula he has memorized from the histories of the great hero. Decius Mus, Janus Jupiter, Father Mars Quirinus Bellona, ye Lares, ye gods of our fathers, and ye gods whose power is over us and over our enemies. I pray to you, I beseech you, that you may prosper the power and victory of the Roman people. As I have declared in words, so for the Republic of the Quirites, for the army, the legions, the auxiliaries of the Roman people, I devote the legions and auxiliaries of the enemy, together with myself, to the chthonic gods and to the Manes. It is a legal contract with death itself. The general becomes a living vessel for a curse, which he will carry into the enemy's ranks. And the seal, you ask, your voice hushed. The seal is his own blood. Gaius says, once the vow is spoken, he is no longer truly a man. He is a sacred offering. He must then mount his horse and charge, alone, directly into the thickest part of the enemy line. He must be killed. His death, his blood soaking into the battlefield, is the fulfillment of the contract. The gods of the underworld, having received their sacrifice, are then believed to sow terror, confusion, and madness among the enemy. Turning a certain defeat into a miraculous victory, you contemplate the terrible power of this act. The ultimate Roman strategy for when a battle is going badly is for the general to make a magic promise to the gods of the underworld and then charge into the enemy and get himself killed. It's a bold, if not particularly repeatable, tactic. This is a blood seal unlike any you have yet encountered. The Scythian ritual created a bond of life. The Norse blot was a gift of strength to the gods. This devotio is a gift of death to the gods of death. It is a seal that works by weaponizing a man's own soul, turning him into a consecrated instrument of destruction, to make the story more real. Gaius tells you of his own experience. I was a young military tribune in Gaul, he says, his eyes distant with memory. Our legion was ambushed in a narrow valley. Our lines were breaking. Our commander, a man named Scaevola, a man of old-fashioned piety, performed the devotio. I saw him speak the words, his face pale but absolutely serene. And then I saw him charge alone into the enemy horde. He was cut down in moments. And what happened? You ask. A strange madness seized the Gauls. Gaius says, a panic. They began to fight amongst themselves. Their lines broke. We rallied, and we were victorious. We won a battle that, by all rights. We should have lost catastrophically. He falls silent for a moment. That night, there was no great celebration in our camp. Only a quiet. Terrified awe. We had been saved. But we had been saved by a terrible, holy act. We spent the next day searching the battlefield for Scaevola's body, so we could give him the hero's burial he had earned. The story chills you to the bone. You, a man of the new, more cynical Rome, are struck by the immense power of this old Republican faith. Future historians will debate whether these stories were literal truth or moralizing legends created to exemplify the Roman virtue of self-sacrifice. But listening to Gaius, a man you know to be pragmatic and level-headed, you have no doubt that he believes what he saw for him. The devotio is a real and terrifying power. You have now seen the apex of civilized blood magic. It is not about personal gain or petty curses. It is about the absolute, willing sacrifice of the self for the salvation of the state. It is a seal that binds a man not to a brother or to a building, but to the very gods of death. In a final, terrible, and glorious contract, you sit in the quiet of the library, the scrolls of history around you. You have come full circle. From a simple treaty on the frontier to this, the ultimate patriotic blood rite. You realize your encyclopedia is almost complete. You have documented seals of brotherhood, of construction, of communion, and now, of self-destruction for victory. But as you think of all the blood you have seen and studied, you recall the conversation you had with the Jewish merchant in the caravan. So long ago, he spoke of a different kind of seal, not one made in a moment of crisis or celebration, but a permanent one. A seal made not with blood, but marked in the flesh itself. A physical sign of an eternal covenant between a people and their one. All-powerful God, your work is not quite finished. You must understand this final, most personal, and most permanent of all blood seals. You know that there is a thriving Jewish community in Rome, across the Tiber River. You must seek them out. You must learn of the seal of the covenant of Abraham. Your study of the Roman devotio leaves you with a deep and unsettling respect for the power of a self-sacrificial oath. You have witnessed how blood can be used to seal pacts between men, between a community and its gods. and even between a man and his own glorious death. But the memory of your conversation with the Jewish merchant in the caravan still lingers in your mind. He spoke of a different kind of seal, a permanent one, marked not on a treaty or an altar, but on the flesh itself, driven by your scholar's need for completeness. You seek permission from your master, Gaius, to investigate this final. Strange custom. You wish to speak with the leaders of the Jewish community in Rome. Gaius, ever the diplomat, is intrigued by the customs of the peoples within the empire. The Jews are a peculiar and stubborn people, he says, but they are ancient, and their God is a powerful one in their own stories. Go, learn what you can, but be respectful. They do not appreciate the casual curiosity of a Roman, and so your journey takes you across the Tiber River, over the Pons Fabricius, and into the district known as Trastevere. This is another city within the city of Rome. The grand marble temples and forums give way to narrow, winding streets, crowded tenement buildings, and bustling workshops. The air smells different here, rich with the scent of unfamiliar cooking spices. And the predominant sound is not the sharp, commanding Latin of the legions, but the softer, guttural cadences of Aramaic and the sacred, mysterious sounds of Hebrew, through a merchant contact. You are granted an audience with a respected elder of the community, a teacher of their sacred law, a man they call Rabbi Eliezer. You are brought not to a grand house, but to a simple clean room in the back of a synagogue. The room is filled with nothing but shelves of scrolls, and the rabbi himself, a man with a long gray beard and eyes that hold a deep, scholarly wisdom. You explain your mission, framing it in a way you hope he will understand. You tell him you are a student of oaths and covenants, that you have studied the ways different nations seal their most sacred promises. You tell him of the Scythians mingling their blood in a bowl, of the Norsemen sprinkling it upon their altars. And you tell him you have heard that his people have the oldest and most permanent blood seal of all. Rabbi Eliezer listens patiently, stroking his beard. When you are finished, he nods slowly. You speak of things you have seen, he says, his voice a quiet, melodic rumble. But the pact you ask of now is of a different nature entirely. What you have seen are oaths made between men, or transactions made with the many small gods of the nations. Our seal, as you call it, is not a ritual for a single day. It is the permanent sign of an eternal covenant between our entire people and the One. True, unseen God who created all things. He begins to tell you the story, not as a piece of folklore, but as the foundational truth of his people. He speaks of your great ancestor, Abraham, who was called by God out of the land of Ur in Mesopotamia, the very land you once visited. You feel a strange sense of connection, a thread of your long journey tying itself together. The Lord, blessed be his name, made a promise to Abraham. The rabbi explains, he promised to make of him a great nation, to give his descendants a promised land, and most importantly, to be their God, and for them to be his chosen people, for all generations. A promise from a God is a powerful thing, you say. Thinking of the fickle and often dangerous promises of Jupiter or Mars, it is. The rabbi agrees. But God did not simply want his promise to be remembered. He wanted it to be worn. He commanded a sign, a physical mark of this Brit, this covenant, to be placed upon the flesh of Abraham and every male child of his descendants. Forever, it is a sign that they belong to him. He explains the nature of the ritual itself. The Brit Mila, the covenant of circumcision, performed on the 8th day of a male infant's life, as a Roman. The concept is alien and somewhat barbaric to you. You know that some other peoples, like the Egyptians, practice it for reasons of cleanliness or priestly purity, but for a Roman, To willfully mutilate the natural body is a strange and distasteful idea. The rabbi seems to understand your unspoken thought. You must understand, he says gently. This shedding of blood is not a sacrifice to God. Our God is the creator of all things. He needs nothing from us. He does not feed on blood like the pagan gods. The blood is not a payment. It is the ink with which the contract is signed upon the body itself. He explains its meaning. It is a permanent mark of identity, a physical sign that separates his people from all others. It is a constant, daily, inescapable reminder to every man of his personal and communal obligation to the covenant made by his ancestor, Abraham. And it is a generational seal, a bond passed down physically through the bloodline, ensuring the covenant is renewed with every new son born. You are struck by the profound difference in this worldview. The blood seals you have seen before were all, in their own way, magical. They were rituals performed by men to achieve a specific outcome, to create a bond, to purify a building, to win a battle. This is something else. It is not an act of magic, but an act of theology. It is not about bending the world to your will. It is about permanently marking yourself as belonging to God's will. You try to find a parallel in your own world. You think of the sacramentum, the oath a Roman soldier swears to the Republic. It is a powerful bond, but a man can be released from it at the end of his service. This Jewish seal is for life. You think of the brand placed on a runaway slave, a permanent mark of ownership. But this is not a mark of slavery. It is a mark of honor, of being chosen. Your encyclopedia of seals is getting very diverse. You have chapters on mixing blood and wine, sprinkling blood on people, and now a new, very personal chapter, seals that require a trained medical professional. You spend the rest of the afternoon with Rabbi Eliezer, who patiently answers your questions, explaining how this single ancient covenant informs every aspect of his people's law and life. You leave the synagogue in Trastevere as the sun is setting, your mind reeling. You have found a blood seal that is not about a moment of crisis or celebration, but about a permanent state of being. It is a seal that is not designed to compel a god, but to forever bind a people to their God. You walk back across the bridge over the Tiber, leaving the narrow, vibrant streets of the Jewish quarter behind and re-entering the grand, marble world of pagan Rome. You look up at the great temples on the Capitoline Hill, their altars still stained with the blood of the bulls sacrificed to Jupiter. You realize your journey is almost at an end. You have seen how blood can be used to bind warriors, to guard tombs, to feed gods, and to seal a people to their creator. There is only one dark corner of the art you have not yet fully explored. You have seen how blood is used in service of the gods, or of God. But what of the blood used in service of the other side? What of the pacts made not with heaven, but with the underworld? You wonder about the desperate sorcerer, the necromancer who, in a dark cellar, writes a contract with a demon, and signs it not with ink, but with a drop of his own blood, the ultimate, personal seal for the most terrible of all bargains. You return to Rome a different man. The world is no longer a simple place of Roman law and barbarian chaos. You have seen that all peoples, from the most civilized general to the most savage horseman, are bound by the same deep, primal belief in the power of blood and the sanctity of an oath. Your great encyclopedia of seals is nearly complete. You have documented the seals that bind men to their gods, and men to the very earth they build upon. But in the quiet of Gaius's great library, surrounded by the ordered wisdom of the world, one final question haunts you. You have studied the white magic of blood, the rituals of state, and the oaths of honor. But what of the shadows? What of the dark? Personal magic that is not performed in public or in a sacred grove, but in a locked cellar at midnight. What of the sorcerer who seeks not to seal a pact with the gods, but with the things that even the gods fear? This is not knowledge you can find in the official archives or through your master's diplomatic contacts. This is forbidden knowledge. Your quest for it takes you away from the marble forums and into the city's grimy, teeming underbelly to the back alley bookstalls of the Sabura district. Here, among the sellers of cheap horoscopes and questionable prophecies, you find a man who, for an exorbitant price, agrees to sell you a scroll he should not possess. It is not a fine papyrus. It is a rough, battered scroll. And as you unroll it in the privacy of your own chamber, a strange, musty smell, like grave dirt and old fear, rises from it. It is a grimoire, a sorcerer's handbook, a practical guide to forbidden magic. Cobbled together from a dozen different traditions, Greek, Egyptian, and ancient Etruscan, you've acquired a forbidden book of dark magic. The table of contents includes how to summon a minor imp, love spells that usually backfire, and negotiating contracts with underworld deities, a beginner's guide. You rid deep into the night, your lamp burning low. The scroll explains the logic of demonic pacts. It describes how a sorcerer, seeking power or knowledge that the celestial gods will not grant, can turn to the chthonic deities, the spirits of the underworld, the demons. But these entities, the scroll explains, are like greedy, treacherous merchants. They demand payment, and they demand a binding contract. And this contract, the scroll insists, can only be sealed with one substance, not wax, which can be broken, not clay, which can be shattered. It must be sealed with the sorcerer's own blood. The grim logic is laid out before you. Blood is the vehicle of the anima, the life force. It is the very essence of a person. To sign your name in blood is not just a symbol, it is a literal transfer of a piece of your soul. You are giving the demon a piece of yourself as collateral. In exchange for its services, a vision of the future, a curse upon an enemy, the demon now owns a part of you. It has a hook in your soul that it will never release. To sign a demonic pact in blood is the ultimate in legally binding signatures. There are no loopholes, and the penalty for breach of contract is eternal damnation. The scroll even contains recipes for the ink. It describes mixing a few drops of your own blood with other potent ingredients soot from a funeral pyre, the venom of a serpent, wine from the grave of a murderer to create an ink so powerful that its words can bind the very princes of hell. The scroll is a testament to a desperate, terrifying belief. But is it real? Did anyone truly perform these rites? Your quest needs one final witness. The bookseller, under the pressure of a few more silver coins, gives you a name, an old man, a recluse and a failed magician, who lives in a squalid tenement building in the poorest part of the city. You find him in a small, filthy room at the top of a crumbling insula. He is not a powerful, menacing sorcerer. He is a pathetic, trembling old man named Sosilis. He is haunted, not by great demons, but by his own failures and fears. At first, he denies everything, but when you show him the grimoire, he breaks down and tells you his story. "I sought knowledge," he whispers, his voice a dry rustle. "I wanted to find a hidden treasure, a lost hoard of gold. The gods would not help me, so I turned to the others." He tells you how he followed the rituals in the book. He drew the protective circle, he chanted the names, and he made a pact with a minor spirit of greed. He shows you the contract, a small, brittle piece of parchment. At the bottom is his signature, a faint, brown smear. "My own blood," he says with a shudder. "And did it work?" You ask. "Did the spirit show you the treasure?" "Oh, yes," so Silas says with a bitter laugh. "It gave me a dream, a perfect vision of a chest of gold coins, buried in the cellar of a ruined house outside the city. So you are a rich man." The old man's face crumples in despair. "No," he says. "The spirit showed me the treasure, but it failed to mention that the house was also haunted by the powerful ghost of its former owner, a man who had been murdered for that very gold. When I began to dig, I awakened him. His wrath has followed me ever since. He torments my sleep. He causes my food to spoil. He whispers threats in my ear every night. The sorcerer, in his attempt to gain a treasure, had ended up with a haunting far worse than the one you had experienced at your villa. He made a pact to get rich, but the demon, in its malicious cleverness, had led him into the territory of a vengeful ghost. He is now trapped between two worlds, his soul forfeit to one spirit, his life tormented by another. You finally meet a real-life sorcerer. You were expecting a dark lord of evil. Instead, you find a sad old man who sold his soul for what turned out to be a losing lottery ticket. It seems the dark arts have a terrible return on investment. You leave the old sorcerer's miserable room and walk out into the Roman sunlight. Your journey is now complete. You have seen the full spectrum of blood seals. You have seen it used by generals to seal a pact of honor and brotherhood. You have seen it used by priests to purify and dedicate the great works of civilization. You have seen it used by common people to bind them to their all-powerful God. And now, you have seen it used by a desperate fool to sell his own soul for a dream of power that led only to ruin. You have your final chapter. The most terrible consequence of unearthing ancient artifacts, you realize, is not what they might do to you. It is what a person, in their greed or their fear, might do with the dark knowledge they contain. You return to the quiet, ordered world of Gaius's library, but the world inside your mind is forever changed. You have seen the raw, wild edges of human belief. You have stood in the sacred groves of the north, on the endless plains of the Scythians, and in the dark cellars of Roman sorcerers. Your great work, the encyclopedia of seals your patron commissioned, is almost complete. All that is left is the final. Concluding chapter, you sit at your writing desk, a clean sheet of papyrus before you, and you unroll the scrolls of your long journey. The memories are vivid, a chaotic collection of rites and rituals, the solemn Roman generals mixing their blood in wine, the fierce Scythian warriors drinking from their communal bowl, the grim-faced masons strengthening a foundation with the life of a bull, the Norsemen, their faces spattered with the blood of their offering to the gods, the Celtic king, bound by a fatal, invisible word, the Jewish boy, sealed into an eternal covenant, the pathetic sorcerer, signing away his soul with his own blood. What is the thread that connects them all? What is the single universal truth that underpins all these strange, powerful, and terrifying seals? You dip your quill, and you begin to write your conclusion. The common thread you write is life itself. In every culture, in every land you have visited, blood is understood to be more than just a fluid of the body. It is the physical vessel of the anima, the key, the tenali, the life force, the essence of a living being. It is what separates the warm, breathing world from the cold, still earth. It is the ultimate symbol of vitality, identity, and commitment. This is why you write. A blood seal is so much more powerful than a seal of wax or a promise of words. A blood seal takes an abstract concept, an oath, a treaty, a brotherhood, and gives it life. The promise is no longer just an idea, it becomes a living entity, animated and empowered by the life force of those who made it. To break a blood oath is not merely to be a liar, it is to commit a form of magical self-harm, an attack on the piece of your own soul that you willingly gave away. You reflect on the different intentions you have witnessed. The Scythian rite used blood to mingle souls and create a new family, a bond stronger than birth. The Norse blot used blood as a gift, a transfer of life force to strengthen their gods. The Foundation sacrifice used blood to give a spirit to an inanimate object, to appease the earth and make a building permanent. The Roman devotio weaponized a life, turning a general's own blood into a curse upon his enemies. The Sorcerer's Pact used blood as collateral in a foolish trade for power, and the Jewish covenant used blood as a permanent ink, to write a people's identity and their pact with God onto their very flesh. The medium was the same, but the purpose, the magic, was shaped by the needs and the worldview of the people who wielded it. After years of travel and witnessing terrifying rituals, You've concluded that the most important promise is the one you make to yourself. It's a bit less dramatic than drinking blood wine, but probably healthier in the long run. Your journey has taught you the world is held together by a vast, invisible web of such pacts, promises, and seals. But as you write your final lines, you come to a personal conclusion, a piece of wisdom not gathered from a priest or a shaman, but forged in your own soul. You have seen all the ways a man can be bound to another, to a place, or to a god, and you realize that the most powerful, most binding, and most important seal of all is the one a person makes with themselves. It is the unbreakable oath of one's own character, a quiet, internal promise to live with honor, to seek wisdom, and to act with courage. It is a seal that requires no knife, no bowl of wine, no magic words. Its only ingredient is your own will. Its only witness is your own soul. You, the young, pragmatic scribe who left Rome so long ago, have been transformed. Your journey is over. You look down at your hands, the hands that have recorded so much strange and terrible knowledge. You look at your scrolls, your great encyclopedia. You have created a magnificent work for your patron, but the true journey was your own. You have forged your own understanding, your own shield of wisdom, and so your story. The story of the scribe who studied the world's sacred bonds comes to its end. You have found your own peace, not in a single, perfect ritual, but in the quiet wisdom that comes from a long journey and a life of observation. The world, you have learned, is indeed governed by powerful, invisible forces, but perhaps the greatest of these are the simple promises we choose to keep. The memory of the blood rites now begins to fade, the wild faces of the Scythian warriors, the solemn chants of the Norse priests, the grim determination of the Roman general, they all recede, becoming quiet passages in the great scroll of your life. The terror and the wonder soften into history, their power contained, their lessons learned. Let that peace and that quiet knowledge now settle over you. The need for terrible, ancient oaths is gone. You are safe in a world of simpler promises. The only seal you need tonight is the gentle closing of your own eyes. There are no contracts to be signed, no debts to be paid. There is only the stillness of your room, the comfort of your bed, and the quiet, easy peace of a mind ready for rest.